Being asexual, strangers in a world of eroticism. Welcome to the Priceless Podcast.
I'm a white cis woman. I'm 32 years old. I'm asexual and aromantic. And I'm also Mennonite, and I work as a design researcher. I would say the individual meaning for every asexual and or romantic aromantic person can vary, but I usually refer to the definition that Avon uses, which defines asexuality as having little to no sexual attraction to other people. And similar to the definition that I use for aromanticism is having little to no romantic attraction, feeling little to no romantic attraction to other people. There are other kinds of orientations or ways of attracting that people discern. So there's, for example, there's sensual attraction, and there's platonic orientation, and many others that have their specific meaning. And then there's a term called gray asexual. That's for people who don't really know. Maybe they experience sometimes sexual attraction. There are demisexual people who identify as demisexual. That's a term to describe when people only feel sexual attraction towards people they have a strong attachment or a strong bond to. And there's also the term questioning. Within the asexual community, the asexual people who define themselves as asexual are like the biggest part. The ace community is not very, it is very young still. It formed around the year 2000. Especially in the beginning, that was a very big discussion about who is really ace, who is a real ace. And in the past years, the community has much more evolved to really include these different experiences. The term asexual does not speak really about do you have sexual interaction. So it's really about the attraction, the arousal, and it also doesn't really mean that you never that the libido is zero. As far as I can remember, I never had really an interest in having a partnership in a way. When you come into school and you feel like there's quite a lot of pressure, and also the images that you get from media, and also like the kind of role models that I had in my family, all of them or most of them lived in a partnership, had kids. Most people would react in a way like, well, but you can't know, you will grow up and then it will feel very differently. Especially when I came into my teens, I just felt like there's a huge gap developing between like what I experienced and like the kind of feelings that my friends described and the things that they were interested in. When I was 16, a friend of mine, 16 or 17, a friend of mine mentioned the term asexuality towards me. And this was in a context where asexuality was more like seen as a psychological disorder, or maybe sort of an illness, something that's not right in with your body. I was happy to hear that there's a name for it, and that other people are like me. It took me until I was maybe 25 or so that I really accepted the term for myself. I started to visit the Avon forum and just read. I never made an account or something like that. And I still struggled with the term asexuality because I found it very difficult to use the term, because for me it wasn't clear what sexuality exactly meant. So it was something that I didn't experience in a way. To talk of asexuality or identify with the term didn't really work because it felt like something that someone from outside would ascribe to me. I sort of found the term ace, which is often used as a shortening of the term asexuality, to identify myself with, because it's also a term that's coming out of the ace community. The Aromanticism, that identification came from just reading about asexuality. So it was usually in the asexual community. There is a distinction between different forms of attractions, different forms of how people experience attraction to and orientation towards different people. I always felt like a stranger in many ways. It didn't help that in media and also in many other like what people say and what is discussed in presentations and stuff, like romantic love, having sex, being in a partnership, that's very much seen as the norm and something that makes humans as humans. So being denied this humanity is something that was and is very hurtful every time that it happens.
I'm thinking about how could I engage more people into supporting the podcast. And some people said, just be more relaxed. I don't think that this will make a difference. So if you want to support this podcast, just click one of the links below. You can support us through a wire transfer, or you can click the link for Patreon and become a monthly supporter.
When I was young, basically the main message was these, like if you have sexual thoughts, that's maybe like bad, or you need to resist those passions. And I always thought, well, I'm a super Christian because I don't have any of these thoughts. So I'm really acing that. On the other hand, when I was over 20, I started to feel pressure. The role of a woman as a mother and a partner, which I would say is very, like, there are exceptions within the Bible of women who do differently, but in general, I would say the majority is much more in this very constricted role model of women. There are places in the Bible where it's clearly said that sort of the job of human beings is to procreate. That's a difficult part or difficult statement in my view. In many ways, asexuality is invisible. I appreciate about my parents that they did very well in strengthening me that it was okay to be the way that I am. Something that I find really difficult is then like the pity some people have. Like being pitied for the life that you choose. I have a big family and have friends, and I really enjoy sometimes just time with by myself and with myself. The majority of people that I meet in asexual communities, they do have connections, and many of them also have very strong connections to other people. The relationships that I have towards people feel like the close relationships, the close attachment that I have to people is I can't really say there's a difference between the feeling that I have towards people of my family, so my parents, my siblings, and to friends. So friends to me often feel like siblings in many ways. There's a really big community within the ace community who is ace and also is on the autism spectrum, and some of them really do struggle with being in contact with people. That does not mean that they are less valid as being asexual when they are on the autism spectrum. From movies and series, if we look at what kind of characters they are. Many of them are robots. Many of them are aliens. Many of them are not human. And if you think of someone like Sheldon, who like often the storyline goes that first they talk in many ways similar to how an asexual person would talk, and within the storyline, it often is the narrative that they are cured. Like they meet someone special. One aspect is really like the preconception that there's something wrong with people who are not attracted sexually to other people. If there's no suffering from just the lack of sexual attraction or sexual activity, there's no problem. A misconception or other misconceptions like are just like that there's one asexual experience or one aromantic experience, and that's not the case. So there are many, there's a big scale of or a big spectrum of what people experience there. I think it's very important that we talk more about asexuality, because not knowing about it makes it very difficult for people to figure out that they're okay, and that it is okay not to want to have sex, and that it is okay not to want to be in a relationship. Then another aspect which concerns more maybe structural or legal aspects is like many of the security measures that we like, or security, like financial security that we have are constructed towards people who marry and who are in a monogamous relationship. And I think it's very important to also have structures that fit people who live alone and who live alone for a long time, and maybe also. That would go a step further to make relationships possible that are not based in romantic and or sexual love. We indeed are human beings. I think that's really important. Thank you, Michael. Thank you.